All right, welcome everyone to Student Conversations, Cycling and Alternative Transportation. We're really excited to have Jacob Adams and Jeremiah McInnes with us tonight for our Student Conversations event. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Hanny Uloa. I'm the Communications Coordinator for the UF Office of Sustainability. And I've been really happy to see the Student Conversations series continue in the spring. This series is really meant to be learning opportunities for students and a way to engage in our new virtual world. So we appreciate everyone joining and being open to this discussion tonight. We're going to learn a lot more about cycling and alternative transportation options on campus. And the wonderful thing is this is also part of Campus Bike Month, which is happening in March. And this is the wonderful week of cycling for sustainability. So we're excited to see these two topics merge. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to our lead student intern for tonight, Astrid Rojas, for this awesome student event. So with that, Astrid, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Hannah. So as she said, my name's Astrid. This is my first year interning at the Sustainability Office. I'm a communications and outreach intern. And I study marketing, and I'm really excited for all of you guys to be here. We can talk about bikes, alternative transportation. It's going to be really fun and really engaging. So now I'm going to pass it off to, before I pass it off, reminder to use the chat box if you guys have any questions. We'll get to it at the end. We're going to have like 20 minutes of Q&A that you guys can ask whatever you want. So I'll pass it off to Natalia now.
Hi, everyone. I'm also a communications and outreach intern. And I'm also a fourth year, so I'm about to graduate, and I've been studying environmental science, and I have minors in digital arts and also in Latin American studies. I'm going to pass it off to Alexis, who is also an intern.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis. I am a second year environmental science student with a focus on environmental and global health. And this is also my first year interning with the office like Astrid. And I'm just really excited for this event.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexis. So if Jeremiah and Jacob, could you guys please introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'd be happy to go first since I was able to hit the unmute before Jeremiah. My name is Jacob. I work in transportation and parking services and also under the Office of Sustainability. I head up the UF Bikes Initiative. I have been working professionally in the bicycle industry since 2007, and it's always great to be able to talk a little bit more about bikes and their role in sustainable transportation.
Awesome. My name is Jeremiah McInnes, and I'm the transportation manager for transportation and parking services. I manage our transportation programs like Campus Cab, Gator Lift, Campus Connector, SNAP, liaise with RTS, a whole bunch of different stuff. I've been in that role since 2014, I believe, and I've been at UF since August of 2000.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction. So now we have questions that we drafted up as interns to ask you guys. So if Natalia, you could start us off, please.
Okay. My first question is, what are some of the free bike resources that are available to students at UF? And are these bike resources usually available in certain periods of the month or the year? Are some of them only available during UF Bike Month?
Sure. So almost every service we offer here on campus is free. And really the one exception to that is the Gator Gears program. Gator Gears is a bike rental program. It offers you basically a bicycle, a lock, and a helmet, as well as free maintenance and service on your bike throughout the semester. It's $40 a semester. And everything else that we offer is free to faculty, staff, and students. So those are things like our commuter bike support program. So this is basically a counseling service if you're interested in learning to be a bike commuter and there are barriers that exist for you. That program is really designed to help break those barriers down on an individual basis. So what that looks like is you fill out a survey And based on your responses, we sort of use that as a jumping off point for a conversation. I can help you plan your route to campus. I can help you pick out a bike. I can help you pick out bike accessories, find the right helmet. I can meet you at your house, and we can ride that route together, and we can figure out all the challenging spots and talk about strategies for safely navigating them. And we can connect you with local organizations like the Gainesville Cycling Club, or we can connect you with other resources that we offer, like our Cycling Savvy online program, which is a bike safety program that you can take on Canvas for free. If you were to buy it in the private world, it's about $100 program. But anyone who's a faculty, staff, or student can jump on and learn the best safe cycling curriculum in the country right now for free through our partnership with the American Bicycle Education Association, bringing that to campus. So that's just sort of a little bit of it. I could probably talk for the entire hour about the free stuff that we offer for cycling, and I'm sure we'll hit on other things. But yeah, so essentially everything we do is free.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the commuting program. That's like, I'm really glad that that exists, because I know from personal experience, my roommate just started biking this semester, and just learning the routes to and from UF, like from school, has been kind of like her biggest challenge. Another question I had was, what are some tips or things to keep in mind for UF students, community members, anyone that's looking to maintain their bike and keep it sturdy for a long period of time?
Yeah, so there's really kind of two strategies to that. There's either a DIY strategy, which if you're interested in that, in times when we're not dealing with a worldwide pandemic, we offer bicycle maintenance courses where you can learn the basics of keeping your bike up from us in a shop setting. We hold those at the SG Free Bike Repair Shop in partnership with Student Affairs and Student Government. And again, that's a free service. You get hands-on with bicycles. We demo how to make sure that your bike is safe and make sure that your bike is maintained. If you're not into the DIY route, then I would recommend finding a local shop that you like and make a connection there and establish a regular maintenance routine with your bicycle. Whenever I need something that I don't want to work on my bike, I go to bike shops like Bike Some More and Good Bike, who have been in town for a really long time. They're locally owned. And I use that opportunity to in addition to, keeping a bike on the road for the sustainability options or aspect, it allows me to support a local business too, which I really like.
Awesome. Thank you for that response. And on that same note, so once you get a bike and now you actually have to go out in the real world with the bike, what are some most common rules of the road for cyclists to be aware of? Like, how can they stay the most safe when riding a bike?
Well, the biggest thing is to understand that in the state of Florida, the law sees cyclists as drivers of vehicles. So when you're on your bike, you have to follow all the same rules of the road that drivers and motor vehicles do. You have to stop at stop signs. You have to signal before you turn. You have to use lights at night. You have to take advantage of the safety equipment that's available. So, while wearing a helmet is not required by law if you're over 16, it's a really good idea. But as far as rules of the road, really it's, a really big one that I see very often broken around town as I ride is riding in the correct direction. When you're heading in a direction, stay on the side of the road that's heading in that same direction. So here in the States, that's the right side of the road. We see people very often riding against the flow of traffic. And this is a really good piece of advice, whether you're on the sidewalk riding or in the road riding or on a bike lane riding. You should ride where people expect to see you coming towards them. And that, really visibility is a huge part of bicycle safety. And not just wearing bright colors or wearing reflective material, but thinking about, as you're approaching an intersection, are you in a place where drivers can see you? Are you in a place where motorists will be looking? And so being able to understand that can really help make your ride safer. And that's a very large component of the Cycling Savvy curriculum. And it's definitely, really something that gets hit home throughout that experience.
Amazing. Expanding the conversation a little bit and touching on things in addition to cycling, I wanted to ask, what are some of the benefits of cycling or alternative transportation in terms of emissions reduction, both individually and for the university? And Jeremiah, if you have any input on this, that would be really great too, talking about RTS or maybe other alternative transportation systems.
Sure. So I'm pretty sure everybody who's on this discussion knows UF has a goal of being carbon neutral by 2025. So, from an alternative transportation perspective, anything that we can do to reduce single occupant vehicle trips is what we want to do. So, cycling, walking, using public transit, all of those modes help reduce emissions from single occupant vehicle trips. I think the last time I checked, the US DOT has documentation online that states that single occupant vehicles use about a pound or emit about a pound of carbon per passenger mile, and public transportation on average is about half of that. So anytime you can reduce those single occupant vehicle trips, that's our goal. And Jacob can speak to this as well, but individually, cycling and walking, they have the obvious health benefits. It's a great way to get some exercise, get out in the fresh air. But I think another benefit of public transit is the stress reduction. I live about an hour away from campus. I live in Lake City, and I commute to campus in normal times, non-pandemic times, in a van pool. And I can tell you from experience that, when you're on public transit, you're commuting using public transit or shared mode, you're not fighting traffic, your blood pressure is not going up, you can kick back and, look at your phone, read a book, take a nap, so from a physical standpoint, individually, I think that's a great benefit. And then it's also great for your wallet, using public transit or using alternative modes of commuting keeps the mileage off your vehicle. You don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for maintenance expenses. And then from a university standpoint, it costs us about $15,000 to $20,000 to build a parking space in a garage. So each parking space in a garage costs about that. So, if you look at the UF master plan, over the next decade or so, we're going to be building a lot of buildings on top of existing parking lots, because parking lots make great building sites. They're nice, open, flat areas. So being able to reduce the number of vehicles on campus, reduce the need for parking, is going to reduce the amount of money that we have to pay to replace that parking. And it also, having less vehicles on our roads is great for the wear and tear on our infrastructure. We don't have to pay as much for resurfacing roads, painting, striping, all that type of stuff. Jacob, do you want to add anything on that one?
Sure. Yeah. When it comes to cycling and sustainable impacts, from top to bottom, the bicycle is a preferred mode, even with an electric bike, and even really looking at a very wide scope of emissions. The energy it takes to build a bicycle is significantly less the energy it takes to build a Prius, or even a less sustainable vehicle. And then the operation of the bicycle costs much less. Pretty much everybody's eating anyways, and the emissions are essentially zero or very low, even for an electric bike, which is a great commute option, especially if you have a longer commute, or you're just feel more confident being able to go a little faster when it comes to being around traffic. So I think from the sustainability standpoint, bikes make a lot of sense, and to the extent that a bike can work for you and your commute needs, if you're able to make that choice, it's a choice you can make and feel confident that it's the most sustainable move, short of walking or taking up jogging. And I would actually agree with Jeremiah. When I have the opportunity to use public transit, especially if I'm visiting a bigger city that has a more robust network than Gainesville does, I love taking advantage of it. I love reading on the bus or on the train, taking the opportunity to listen to music, all the kind of stuff that I can't do in an active commute like a bike ride, or even, in the car. Um, for the university perspective, transportation is about, I think, in the neighborhood of 17% of campus's overall carbon impact. And that's the second biggest chunk compared to all the other aspects that affect our carbon impact. So, energy use is the biggest one on campus, heating, cooling, electricity, that sort of thing. But those are things that, as individuals on campus, operating on campus, we don't have a ton of say in, right? Like, we don't get to change how much electricity it takes to keep the Rights Union air conditioned, but we can make an impact on the transportation emissions of the university, because we do count cyclists, and we do count pedestrians, and we do count alternative transportation users, people who are taking the bus or van pulling or using our campus connectors. And so, it's something where as individuals, we can take action and know that it's having an impact on a part of our carbon footprint on campus that is very significant.
Nice. And to touch a little bit on, Jacob, your statement earlier about if students have access to these things, how do alternative transportation options impact accessibility and equity at an institution like UF?
I think that as a whole picture for the alternative transportation and more sustainable transportation options that exist on campus, one of the nice things with UF in particular, as opposed to other universities and other municipalities, is that those options are available all for free to students on campus for the most part, or at a very low cost. RTS is free. Obviously, it's paid for partially through student fees, but it is it's a no cost to use the actual service. The campus connector, Gator cabs, the options that are available for disabled folks on campus to get around. The on-demand services are available through transportation and parking services, which Jeremiah, I think, can touch on more. And even Gator Gears, the opportunity to own a bicycle and have access to a bicycle for $100 a year, which is what it costs if you rent a bike for the entire year, is pretty significant. If you were to get regular maintenance on your bicycle, which is one tune-up every 6 months, about the cheapest one you can get in town at the shop is $50. And so, when you would go with Gator Gears, you basically, that's all you're really paying for, is just keeping that bike up. And the actual cost, at least, we do all the maintenance for free, all the repairs for free, unless you've taken it off a loading dock or jumped it into a lake. There's no cost to you in addition to the actual, the cost of the rental. So when it comes to accessibility, and equity, we really see the bicycle as a great tool for equity. A lot of times when we think of cyclists, we think of people riding on trails. We think of people maybe doing it for recreation or athletic purposes. But a lot of people who ride bikes are people who ride bikes to commute, and people who ride bikes to get to their jobs, and people who ride bikes because that's the most affordable option available to them. And so, we try to build our programming to the extent possible to serve all cyclists, and make it available to the widest audience possible. We are working on some programs that will actually target marginalized groups. We don't have anything at this point that's really focusing on creating outreach or specific opportunities. But those are things that are on our radar, and we're in constant communication with other universities to find out who's doing it right, who has programs that are effective, and making sure that when we are able to offer something, it's something that can be meaningful.
Yeah, and Jacob talked about this. He touched on this a little briefly, but when you talk about accessibility, one of the first things that jumps to mind for me is our Gator Lift ADA transportation service. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with that service, but it's a a free door-to-door on-demand paratransit service for students. It's primarily student focused, but faculty and staff are allowed to ride it. But that's funded by the transportation access fee, and that provides students who are severely disabled, mobility disabled. It provides them access to services and programs, destinations, that they'd have a hard time getting to otherwise. So I think that's a big one for accessibility that springs to mind. We also, the transportation access fee that students pay, I think it's $9.41 a credit hour. That pays for, as Jacob mentioned, RTS bus service is fare free anywhere in the city, anywhere on campus, to all students. It pays for the SNAP nighttime safe ride program. It pays for Gator Lift. It pays for discounted Lyft rides through the UF Safe Rides with Lyft program. And a lot of other stuff, but I think that's a big aspect of accessibility.
Thank you so much. I had a question kind of related to COVID. So I was wondering how alternative transportation has changed with the pandemic and what students can kind of consider with the different avenues of transportation.
I hadn't changed at all. Why would it have changed any over the last year? You guys think anything's changed? It's changed. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. We have implemented so many COVID related policies and procedures, safety routines with our alternative transit programs. Every vehicle in our fleet, SNAP, Gator Lift, Campus Cab, Campus Connector, they're all sanitized after each day or night of service by facility services has a professional COVID response team. So they come out, they spray the vehicles down every night, every morning. All our passengers, all our drivers have to wear masks at all times when they're in the vehicles. High contact surfaces like armrests, door handles, seat belts, those are wiped down by the drivers. With our services that do individual rides, it's after every ride. With our services that are more continuous, it's every half hour. We've reduced capacity on all our vehicles. We've reduced seating to promote physical distancing. We have installed driver and passenger barriers, these plexiglass barriers in all the vehicles to promote physical distancing. And our drivers have access to all kinds of PPE and cleaning supplies. We purchased goggles, we purchased gloves, we purchased N95 masks for them if they want them. We also have spare masks in all the vehicles for passengers. For RTS, they're doing a lot of the same stuff. The masks are required. They have a team that's cleaning their vehicles daily. And then, they have dispensers for hand sanitizer, dispensers for masks on board the vehicles. Their seating is reduced. And they also have a team of employees that's going around and wiping down bus shelters in town and cleaning their admin buildings every day. So there's a lot of things that have changed, a lot of procedures we put in place. I'd encourage everybody to go to the TAPS website at taps.ufl.edu, check out our alternative transportation page. We've got a little short video on Campus Cab, SNAP, Gator Lift, and Campus Connector that talks about the things that we're doing. It's pretty informative, and there's some good information on there. But yeah, there's a lot of things that have changed. But one thing we're seeing really is that I think we have to win back the confidence of transit passengers after this whole thing is done, because right now there's not a lot of ridership. RTS ridership is way down. Our Campus Connector shuttle service ridership is way down. Really, the only thing that's kind of close to pre-COVID levels is SNAP right now. But we really hope that as we get into the summer and the fall, and as students become and faculty and staff become more aware of these things and become more confident in public transportation, that those numbers will return.
I'll touch just briefly. Not a lot has changed for cycling. One of the big changes that we made is for our Gator Gears program, when we've done rollout events in the past to issue the bicycles to students. Those events have kind of been come whenever you're available within a 6 or 7 hour window. We moved to making individual appointments that were spaced out enough so that basically no student who arrived would encounter any more than one other student. We set up, physically distant fitting stations to bikes to make sure that they fit well. And the same thing for our helmet fitting. We make sure that the helmets properly fit everybody. And, in the past, that might be something where one of our helmet fitters was close to you, helping you make adjustments to straps or something like that. And obviously that kind of proximity doesn't make a lot of sense for safety in the COVID era. Another thing that's available, just as general guidelines for COVID-19 safety when you're thinking about in the context of cycling, we have a page on the bikes.ufl.edu website that has some content there. And then there's a link on that page to the League of American Bicyclists standing page for COVID-19 safety and strategy when riding. Essentially, though, you don't want to immediately draft behind somebody where you're breathing in potentially their breath for an extended period of time. Studies have shown that transmission could be possible in those situations. It makes sense to wear a mask if you're going to be riding a bike in a crowded area. But if you're out on the trail by yourself and you're not expecting to encounter many people or be riding directly with someone, those are opportunities when you may, take your exercise without a mask or have that part of your commute without a mask.
All good things to keep in mind given the current situation on campus. But kind of transitioning the conversation a little bit again, more generally, we know that flying also has a significant environmental impact when we're talking about transportation. So what are some of the possible impacts if we're thinking expansion on like the Gainesville airport on encouraging folks to use more sustainable forms of transportation?
That's a great question. That's a really interesting question, Alexis. Unfortunately, air travel is kind of outside the scope of my expertise and my area of responsibility. So I don't think I'm qualified to speak directly to that, but I'll say that I think, transportation and parking services as a department is committed to providing as many options for the UF community as possible. And, there are definitely a lot of drawbacks to air travel. And we could talk about that, but I think, generally the more choices you give people, the better it ends up working out in the long run. I also think a lot of, long distance transit decisions are made with cost in mind. I know, when I was a long time ago, when I was in college, I was operating on an extremely limited budget. I don't know what it's like for y'all, but I would have had to exhaust a lot of options before I decided to go fly somewhere. And then, I also think students today are extremely educated and passionate about sustainability and environmental factors and the future of the planet in a way that probably hasn't been in the past. And I give students a lot of credit. I think that the vast majority of students will take those type of factors into account when planning their trips.
I don't have too much to add, except for I would add that, whenever this renovation as they're taking place, and I'm not privy to the plans for them, but there are ways to I think encourage more sustainable ways to get to the airport and to experience transit leaving the airport. One of the things right now that Gainesville's airport doesn't have is any way to secure a bicycle. I live within easy biking distance of the airport, and I've flown out many times and wished that I could just ride my bike there instead of having to get an Uber first thing in the morning or something like that. And then the same thing for bus service out to the airport. In the area I live, out in the Northeast, even though I'm really close to the airport, bus service to the airport or a shuttle to the airport is pretty inconvenient. And so I think that, you know, to the extent that, as Jeremiah mentioned, UF doesn't have too much of a say in it and what we have the power to do. But it's great as citizens and as customers of Gainesville Airport to consider that those are things that we can ask for to improve the sustainability of the flight experience.
Awesome. Thanks for those responses. I have a question. So Jacob, you mentioned that one of the goals for alternative transportation at UF is to support marginalized communities at a higher rate. Could you expand upon that goal? And then could you both just expand upon future goals for sustainable transportation at UF?
Sure. So as an example of one of the programs that we're looking into, so I'm the campus bicycle program coordinator, the campus bicycle program assistant, who's a person who helps me make the bike programs on campus work and be effective. Her name is Christina Thompson, and she has a background working at the Free Will Project as a mechanic and as a shop manager, which is a local bike co-op that until very recently was operating in Gainesville. And one of the things that she spearheaded there was an effort to offer programming for women, trans, and femme folks, because cycling as a sport and even as an activity is a very white, very male, and very older person dominated space. And so one of the things that she did while she was there and that we're working on for UF is she created what they call WTF rides and WTF shop sections. And so, these were opportunities for women, trans, and femme folks to get together, have someone who's knowledgeable about bicycles, lead them on bike rides, and offer sessions where they can learn to work on their own bikes and move on to become bicycle mechanics. And so, these are opportunities that we want to create to make cycling a space where more people feel like they can fit in and more people can see themselves reflected in it. And so those are, some of the things that we're working on, making sure that, we can offer. We want to do the same types of programs for Black and brown folks on campus who, you don't see in the cycling space. You don't walk into many bike shops and find a Black or brown mechanic. And so those are things that the cycling industry as a whole is really looking at right now and doing a lot of soul searching on and starting to do, even in cycling publications. If you check out Bicycling Magazine, they actually just did a really great series of articles on people who are expanding that space and making it more accessible and creating more equitable access. And so there's a lot of people who are doing that work. And so what we're doing is we're trying to learn from the people who are leading in that space. I don't think that myself, I don't think that I can create that those opportunities in a way that somebody who's already working in it and has been working at it any better. So right now we're looking to learn and make sure that we are, when we're able to expand and we have the bandwidth and the capacity to do that, we're able to do it right. So those are things we're working on in the sort of equity and accessibility aspect. When it comes to expansion of cycling on campus as a whole, we really, we just became a gold bicycle friendly university. So if you're not familiar with what that is, the League of American Bicyclists is a national advocacy organization, and they rank colleges and universities that fill out an application. It's a very in-depth application. And when they do that, they give you a ranking from sort of applied and then bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So UF is doing really well in what we offer. And so it's our intention to take what we offer and expand it and make it more effective. We offer bike safety classes and we offer the mechanic training classes, but those are things that sort of only allow us to have contact points in the community with 40 or 50 people a year. And we think that should be, 300 or 400 people a year. And so for us, a lot of what expanding and improving cycling on campus looks like is making those opportunities available more often and to a wider group of people. And that involves our communication strategy, reaching the audiences where they are, and not expecting audiences to come to us. And really getting ourselves on a trajectory to achieve excellence throughout our programming, and what we work on, whether it's infrastructure, making sure that bike lanes are well designed and put in the right places, making sure that there's lighting in the places that people want to ride at night, making sure that campus policies and programs are there to ensure the safety of cyclists, making sure education efforts reach out not only to cyclists, but also to drivers and help them understand how to drive more safely around cyclists and pedestrians. So a lot of those things are things that we're working on as we look ahead, and especially as we look to 2024, which is our next application period for the ranking. And we really, we have an ambitious goal to become a platinum university, which would put us among the top 10 universities in the country.
Yeah, and this is some good stuff. And just to add, some of the other upcoming things that that you might be interested in around alternative transportation in campus are, I'm sure everyone has heard about the landscape master plan and the plan for a green space in the campus core and an auto-free zone. If you haven't heard of it, it is a plan that was proposed about 3 or 4 years ago to connect the Plaza of the Americas, Turlington Plaza, and the Rights Union lawn in one big continuous green space. Remove all automobile access from that area. Union Road will be going away, basically. Newell Drive will not be passable further north than Inner Road. Inner Road will become a two-way access road. And that's been, in discussion for a long time, but they're actually about to break ground on that in May. And they're going to begin with Inner Road and with the Chrysler and Taggart lots. So within a year and a half, we expect that to be a reality in the campus core. And that's going to transform the campus core and make it, it's going to facilitate the goal of making it a much more walkable, cyclable campus, remove a lot of the vehicle traffic from that area. So that's coming up. That's going to be a big thing related to transportation and just daily life. We are partnering with the city of Gainesville in a micromobility pilot program, and micromobility is our made-up term for electric scooters. So if y'all have seen, Bird and Spin and the electric scooters that have been on the West Coast and in a bunch of different cities, I'm sure different people have different emotions around those scooters and some of the stories that have come out around them, but they're here, they're coming. We're working with the city on a pilot program there that should start at the beginning of May. We've got 3 vendors that have been approved by the city, and they're going to have scooters in the city on campus and available for use. And, we think those scooters are, they're a great first mile, last mile option for people. And another thing that those scooters can do is, we hope, is they can replace a lot of the trips through the campus core and around campus that gas-powered scooters are taking now. We really want to try and diminish the use of gas-powered scooters. One of the things that has been recommended to us in the study is a lot of the little parking areas that scooters currently enjoy in the campus core with close access. Those are going to be all going away. Scooter parking is going to be consolidated to 6 or 7 what we call mega zones, more on the outskirts of campus, so we can kind of get a handle on the scooter traffic on campus, because the intention with scooters 15 years ago, or whenever it started, might have been 10 years ago, was that they were seen as a more sustainable alternative to vehicles at that time. Smaller engine, they use less gas, smaller footprint. But they've kind of gotten out of control over the last 10 years, and people aren't using them as originally intended, because of the proximity of the parking and the availability. People are using those for all kinds of trips, where a vehicle comes to campus, most vehicles, it'll get parked, during the day. It doesn't move. It comes in the morning, leaves in the afternoon. Or if it's a student vehicle, most of the time it's parked in a garage or a lot all week, and it doesn't move very much. Well, scooters, people come in, they park in these zones, they come out of class, they drive to the next zone, to their next class. They come out, they drive to the library. So removing those scooter zones and consolidating those into mega zones is something that we're working on. I think the electric scooters are going to be a great first mile, last mile option for the UF community. Another thing that we're doing is we're working with RTS on a strategy to try and do some capital funding for them so they can replace the buses in their fleet. The RTS fleet, probably about half of it needs to be replaced. They're older buses, they're inefficient, and they break down a lot. So we're working on a way to help RTS replace those buses with more efficient buses, electric buses, alternative fuel buses. RTS just purchased, they're doing a ribbon cutting on Thursday, but they just purchased 3 new electric buses with CARES Act money that they're going to be putting in the fleet pretty soon. So those are some of the big things. There's all kinds of stuff looking forward to.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those responses. So now we're going to open the floor to people who have joined us. So if you guys have any questions for Jacob or Jeremiah, or for both of them, or for the interns, feel free to say it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask.
I had a question to kick it off. At the beginning, cycling savvy was mentioned, and I was curious as to when you would be able to register for that, if it's any time of the year, if there's specific periods where you can.
Yeah, so Cycling Savvy Online is available anytime, and enrollment is open. So it's mostly a video-based course. So you kind of watch videos, have very brief readings to go with it, 1 or 2 paragraphs to give you some context for the video. And then 3 or 4 questions afterwards, just to sort of gauge how much you got out of the video. So that's available anytime, and the sections are split up into sort of 4 to 8 or 10 minute sections, so it's real easy to work through at your own pace. And one of the things that we've started to offer is, if you've taken the complete Cycling Savvy course, then you can actually qualify as having taken part of the in-person course. Before COVID, Cycling Savvy was typically offered in person as a full weekend. So it was a Friday night classroom course, and then on Saturday morning we would meet and do bike handling exercises in the morning, and then have lunch and do a sort of tour around the city to put some of what you've learned into practice, and explore what it looks like to navigate different areas of campus. The what we call the graduation feature of Cycling Savvy, just to give you an idea, is we go to Southwest 23rd, where it comes out from campus, and from the south side of the road we turn right onto Archer Road heading back towards campus, and we ride our bikes down the middle of Archer Road one at a time, and nobody has been killed. It's learning strategies to use lights and timing of traffic to your advantage, understanding the nature of how our traffic lights and traffic system bunch cars together and things, set it up so that when you make that turn onto Archer Road, you have the entire 3 lanes all to yourself. And so it's something that sounds like a crazy thing to ask someone to do. But in the context of, you know, sort of experiencing the whole cycling savvy experience, it puts you in that position to feel confident doing it at the end. No, I don't ever ride my bike on Archer Road for fun or for commuting. I think there's lots of other ways to get around. But the idea behind it is to show that it is something that is possible if you find yourself in a situation where that's your option. Cycling savvy in-person courses will be starting back up likely in the fall, as long as things continue to calm down with COVID and vaccinations continue to roll out to everybody safely. We actually are offering cycling savvy this semester, just the outdoors on bike portions. That's going to be on March 27th. And if you have taken the online course, you can qualify to sign up for that. All you have to do is send an email to info@bikes.ufl.edu and ask about signing up for the class. We will check to see that you completed the Canvas course, and then we can sign you up. And again, that's something where that entire course offered is normally about $130. And so this is something that we offer. The Office of Sustainability actually funds us being able to provide cycling savvy courses at no cost to faculty, staff, and students.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'll pose a question myself. For someone who's very far away from campus currently, are there any recommended resources for someone who's wants to get into bike maintenance, or someone that wants to try and tune up their bike themselves while they don't have access to shops?
Got it. So you know, there's a lot of online resources. A really good one that I can recommend is from a company called Park Tool. Park Tool is sort of the go-to company for bicycle specific tools. It's what you'll see in most bike shops. They have a YouTube channel, and I think they have video blogs and video podcast kind of things. And you can find almost everything you need you could possibly want to do, especially for basics in getting started for bicycle mechanics. And then, you know, if you have a bike and you have some basic tools, you know, even if you don't have basic tools, for a very small amount of money, you can get a pretty basic toolkit from, you know, any online retailer. And many bike shops will actually order those for you as well. And so that's a good place to start. If you are handy and you are enthusiastic about bikes and you plan to spend any time on campus in the future, UF Bikes has a student intern team, and part of what that looks like is we actually train you to become a bicycle mechanic. So you don't have to be a mechanic off the bat. We can teach you from the beginning. As long as we feel like you're the right fit for the team and there's enthusiasm with cycling. And we actually have access through our program through a company called Shimano, which makes bicycle parts. They have a professional mechanics training series that's available privately to dealers and other bike shops called S-Tech. And so we ask our interns to go through that program in addition to hands-on learning, working on some of the bike programs that we have. And Allie is one of our interns. And Allie, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you care to share anything about your intern experience, this might be an interesting opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I'm an intern with the UF Bike program. I'm graduating in the summer, so you know, there's only so much time that I have left in the internship, which makes me kind of sad. But if you are interested in biking, interested in learning more about maintaining your bike and doing little basic repairs, the internship will definitely teach you all of that. Like when I started, I knew that I've got to pump up my tires. I put some lubricant on my chain every once in a while, and now I can literally build a bike. So yeah, if you're interested in that sort of thing, totally apply and or at least look into it.
Thank you.
And you get to work for Jacob as a boss too, so that's a big perk, you know. He's a good guy.
I have a question for Jeremiah. You mentioned earlier the idea of last mile, first mile, which I feel like is self-explanatory, but if you could just expand on that language a little bit and what that means for sustainable transportation.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, it's the idea of connecting modes, connecting trips. So, you know, maybe you take the bus to work, right? The first mile is how do you get from your house to the bus stop? And then the last mile is how do you get from the bus stop when you get off the bus to your destination? So first mile, last mile is really about the start and end point, the connecting trips. And it's a big concept in transportation and transportation demand management, because it's important to figure out those connections, and it's something we look at a lot. So I hope that explains it a little better. Sometimes I'll say things and I don't think about if I'm explaining them well. So you guys let me know.
Well, that's great. Makes sense to me. Any other questions from our audience members? Anything transportation related?
If this is the opportunity, I am going to share one more link and pitch one more thing to everyone, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, I think if we're feel good about questions, I'd like to ask both Jacob and Jeremiah if there are any final thoughts, resources, events that you'd like to leave the attendees with to keep in mind. I know we mentioned a lot of things, and we'll definitely be following up with a lot of this information with everyone that registered for the event.
Cool. Yeah, so something that's coming up that's really special for us is the Bicycle Film Festival. This is the first time. The Bicycle Film Festival has been around for 20 some odd years, and they traditionally have been in-person events, featured with sort of weekend-long events featuring full-length films and short films and of many different types and genres, somehow related to cycling. It's an international event. Typical year, you would see it in Paris and New York and in Los Angeles and, maybe even, places farther flung. And so this year it's virtual and it's a short film format. And we, with the help of the Office of Sustainability and Gators Going Green, which is the student government sustainability club group, they have helped us by sponsoring bringing the film festival to campus at no cost for faculty, staff, and students, as well as anyone who is in Gainesville who may not necessarily be affiliated with UF. And so this year's festival is going to be excellent. It's about 90 minutes of content. We were fortunate enough to have Curtis Reynolds, who's a vice president for business affairs, offer us a welcome video, which you'll see if you register for it. I just shared that link. On that page, there is a code, which is BFFUF21, and you can access all the content for free. It's going to run from March 19th through April 22nd. So it's connecting Bike Month and Earth Day. And it's a great opportunity to explore not just, athletic aspects of cycling, but also the cultural aspects of cycling from places around the world, as well as a short film about a track racer who came from Florida and as a part of Florida's bicycle heritage. So something to check out. Please feel free to share it. If you happen to follow us at the UF Bike social media accounts, you'll hear a lot about it in the coming days. And we'll be keeping it on your radar if it happens to fall off. So that's Bicycle Film Festival. And then we, like has been mentioned, we are in Campus Bike Month. And so there's more happening with that for the rest of the month. Most notably, Bike to Campus Week is coming up next week. So we're just going to be encouraging you to ride to campus. We're going to set up some social media asks and check-ins and that sort of thing. So please follow us. It's at BikesUF on all platforms. Thanks for having me too.
Bikes.ufl.edu is a great resource. You know, I just encourage everybody to check out taps.ufl.edu. It's got a lot of stuff about parking, but it also has some stuff about alternative transportation. A lot of good information on there. And, you know, I would just encourage everybody to try different modes of alternative transportation while you're in Gainesville. You know, if you haven't walked around campus and, you know, taken a exploring trip around, go walk around a part of campus that you're not used to. Walk, you know, there's a lot of really cool places around. If you haven't been on a bicycle in Gainesville, get a bicycle and, you know, go ride through the Duck Pond area or the Hawthorne Trail, or, you know, Jacob can talk about that. Bicycling it's awesome. Bicycling in Gainesville in the anytime but the winter is really good. You know, it's a really fun experience. If you haven't ridden the bus, go ride the bus. The bus is pretty interesting to ride. You know, also try our Campus Connector service. It's a new shuttle service that we just launched about a year ago. Unfortunately, COVID has really put a damper on it, but you know, try it out. It's a free shuttle service. You guys have probably seen the shuttles. They're orange and blue. They say Campus Connector on the side. If you go to our website at taps.ufl.edu, alternative transportation, Campus Connector, you'll see routes. Check it out. Tell your friends about it. Ridership is low. We need to increase it. And thanks for having me as well. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. I don't know if our interns have any final thoughts they wanted to share. You guys put together a great event.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. This event was awesome. I learned a lot. And also, especially this final link that I think Jacob sent in the chat. I've never seen this. And it looks like there's self-guided tours that you can just look at the map and go by yourself or with a friend. That's really awesome. So I'm gonna probably do this with my roommate sometime this week.
Definitely check it out. The blue track on the map is my favorite little natural spots you can ride a bike to on campus. So there's places where little wooden bridges cross creeks, and you can experience the sort of different forest types that are available on campus, or woodland types that are available on campus, which is pretty fascinating, and you can get to them all by bikes. It also hits on the cross campus greenway, and which is a part of the Archer Braid Trail, which connects Archer out to our west, to Hawthorne out to our east. So you can stay on a bike and stay on a bike trail and ride a really long way right from here in campus in the heart of Gainesville. And we're going to be adding to it, so please visit back.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to mention earlier today, we did a brief survey on our social media where we asked people about whether they wanted to become more confident with biking or sustainable transportation. And overwhelmingly, a lot of responses, 95% of people said yes, they wanted to know that. So kudos to everyone who joined tonight and took that extra step of learning a little bit more about cycling or sustainable transportation on campus or beyond. There are some great questions about, you know, what are the resources beyond Gainesville? And thank you, Jacob Adams and Jeremiah McInnes, for joining us tonight. I feel like I learned a lot, and I I didn't even know I had questions about some of these things, so I definitely learned a lot.
Thanks so much for having us.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.